Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the public portion of this. There's a couple of folks out in the audience that have microphones, so if you'll raise your hand, identify yourself when you get the microphone, and you have up to 3 minutes to make a comment or ask any questions. We have representatives of each of the three developers up here that can answer specific questions put to them, and then Kim and I and Bobby will answer any questions that you have for the city. So can we...
Sid, can I interrupt you? If we could ask, if you do have a question, can line up at me or at Laura right over here. And we're just going to stay here, and then we'll just ask you to say your name, and then you can, you'll have 3 minutes to ask your question like Sid said. So me or Laura. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hi, Bill Morrissey. If the downtown area gets the proposal, wins a proposal, would you let Rick Nielsen put his guitars in Rock and Brew?
I think I can handle that one. We'll talk about that later. No, I don't think so. What's next?
Yes, Rick. And they said you can come play at Rock and Brews, too.
Who's next?
My name is Stanley Campbell, and most of us know people who are who have trouble controlling themselves around alcohol, drugs, gambling, and other vices. And what some may not understand is how our biology is different, causing some people to be more susceptible to the disease of addictions. Well, alcoholism can affect up to 25% of the population. Gambling affects maybe 5%, but it is more pernicious. Someone can lose their life savings in one sitting. So we're talking about maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people within the Rockford, Winnebago County area whose addictions could affect families, businesses, and community. It would be nice if there were more counseling for those who needed help, more help for those who have this disease, and more understanding among this community with those who are struggling with that disease. And if we can confront and encourage our family and friends to seek that help. I'm glad to see that there were some mention and acknowledgement of the fact that there are people who may suffer from this disease. That right now there are only 2 Gambling Anonymous meetings that meet weekly in this area. We need at least 1 Gambling Anonymous meeting a day. Those who are in Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous know that each site helps those with their specific needs. Gambling Anonymous meetings must be increased. And I know our churches and our nonprofits will step in. Will the industry step in? First, do they acknowledge the need? And second, can they help mitigate, help the community to reach those that have this addiction and not prey off of them? Some casinos prey upon the addict because they can make their money in that way. It is our responsibility as a community to take care of those who suffer from this disease, but it is also the responsibility of the industry to do so as well.
Thank you. A couple of general comments, and then Bobby will address a couple of more specific ones. Number one, the better casino companies all now realize that this is a problem. While they might disagree with the 5% number, I think some national numbers show it as being a little bit smaller than that. It is a serious problem. Our experience has been that the reputable casino companies do not want addicted gamers there. It gives them a bad reputation. That's not how they want to make their money. It's the last thing they want. So I'd say that in the last X number of years, whether it's 5 or 10, it's gotten a lot more awareness, and most of the casino companies are doing things voluntarily. In addition to the voluntary things that you'll see happening, the state requires a significant amount of attention to problem gaming, and not just paying attention to it, but doing something about it. So the state wants to know what each casino company in each location is going to do about it, how they're going to address it with consulting services, how they're going to address training employees to make sure that the employees spot the problem and can hopefully cut it off before it gets too bad. Hotlines available, advertisements available, a lot more awareness of it. In addition to the state requiring that, in our host community agreement, we've specifically asked each developer to explain to us very specifically, not in general platitudes, what are you going to do about this issue? How are you going to handle it? And Bobby will give you a couple of the ideas that the city has and that a couple of the developers have given us.
Thanks, Sid. As he noted, as we were going through this process, we specifically asked the proposers to talk about this potential issue in our community and how they might address it. And I do believe that we are seeing robust responses from everyone as they do recognize it as an issue in the industry and something that I believe that everybody who has come to our table is concerned about. So we've also talked at the city level, we've talked with the people at Remedies, which is currently the only local provider of gambling addiction services, about what they see as the biggest needs. And some of those things are in intervention and education to make people, local people, know that there are services available locally that they can access, make us all understand and be educated about what the issue is and how to recognize it in family members and friends and those kinds of things. So we do recognize this as a very serious concern. I do believe that each of the applicants also recognizes it as a serious concern and is working well with the city to think about creative ways to address it. Anything else?
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hi, I grew up in Rockford. My name is Marcus Cassidy.
Thank you.
I grew up in Rockford. Rockford used to be a great city. It had trees. They called it the Forest City. We had churches that you could go to. We had a beautiful park system. I had a friend that was addicted to gambling. We found out at a casino, and he spent all of the money he had on it. And then they have a machine inside the casino that has like a telephone on it. And you talk on there, and you put your credit card in there, and you ask them to give you a loan. And he asked for a loan so he could get more money so that he could gamble some more. There's a sign on that machine that says you're going to be paying an interest rate and fees that's more than you would pay for any other kind of loan in the United States. When I was growing up in Rockford, I used to go to a little music store on 7th Street, and one day I was going to buy a guitar pick. And the little man behind the counter said to the little boy that I was, he said, "Here's one that's from Cheap Trick." I said, "Oh, thank you, I'll keep this." I went to a place called the Stockholm Inn, and Bernice Nielsen gave me, or Bernice Carlson gave me a gift certificate for some Swedish pancakes. I treasure these things. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wonder, you know, these people are in heaven now, of course, But I always wonder how, if our parents are in heaven, and we're not, do they just forget that we ever existed?
Well, thank you. Number one, I think you might note that in each of the groups, there's a significant local component. Local investors, local construction companies, other local vendors that are part of all three developers' programs. Most casino companies don't come into a jurisdiction by themselves and say, I know what to do. Most casino companies come in and say, we need local input, we need local community involvement, we need to know what the city wants, what it thinks is most important for it, because where we come from, it might be different. So I think that all three of these developers have the local component piece. They've got local investors, local developers, local construction companies to kind of help them direct where they want to go. With reference, so we'll get the community input, we'll get the community involvement not only through these sessions, but through other comments that have been made to the city over the period of the last several weeks. But they also have their local investors and local companies that will kind of direct them in that. With reference to the community, to the addiction issue, it's clearly an issue. It exists currently. Whether you introduce the casino or not, you've got it here. You've got VLTs, VGTs, whatever you'd prefer to call them. You've got casinos that are within, a relatively short drive. So I think that the issue of ignoring it, we're well past that. It's here. Everybody knows it's here. If this casino wasn't here, it would still exist because you have all these other methods of gaming. The issue for, I think, most companies and the issue for the city is trying to figure out what the most effective method is for dealing with problem addiction. We've got an opportunity to do it a little bit better than whatever the last casino was, built wherever it was, to try to find the best consultants, the best hotlines, the best advertising, spend our dollars wisely, and I think that's what the city and these developers are all focused on. Nobody's trying to sweep it under the floor. Nobody wants to take money from an addicted gambler. We're working on it. Is it a perfect solution? It's never going to be a perfect solution. There's always going to be somebody who drinks too much. There's going to be somebody who smokes, whatever they want to smoke too much, and there's going to be people who, as long as gaming exists in the country, they're going to gamble a little too much. You're trying to reduce that group, make it as small a percentages as possible, and do as much as you can to assist it by intervention first, training of your employees second, or ready to go the other way, and then counseling services. So we're going to do everything that we can about it. Is it going to be perfect? No. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brett Kwiatkowski, and this is my 54th day free from speaking at a public forum.
Congratulations.
Thank you. My question is for the Hard Rock proposal. With the large number of Hard Rock closures, upwards of 50 restaurants, and the closure of the casino in Las Vegas, how can we guarantee that this trend doesn't continue here in our community? Thank you.
Well, first of all, I should explain the setup with the Vegas casino. When the company was purchased by Hard Rock in 2007, there were a lot of areas carved out of the deal that we did not get. 5 of those properties were west of the Mississippi and included the Las Vegas casino. It is actually for us a good thing that they want to take the name off, because that means we now get the rights to that name back, and we can do a casino on the Strip, which is what our intention is. There were other areas carved out. As far as 50 facilities closing, I don't know where you're getting your information, but that's not accurate.
Thank you. Next question, please.
I believe we were going to take one of the questions that's been submitted in writing prior to that. We just have 2, so we're going to rotate those. So I'll let Bobby handle that.
One of the questions really has already been addressed, which is, I just want to let the audience know that it was another question that came in before the hearing with respect to Gambling is an addiction for some people who will spend their paychecks in the casino rather than feed and clothe their family. What precisely will the city do to mitigate this problem and to protect those families? Again, you know, the precise plans, I suppose, are still under development, but we do know that the proposers are interested in making sure that their employees are educated. They are interested in working with remedies or a local agency to make sure that there are services available to people locally, that we have good education and intervention services and activities going on in this community, so that not just the problem gamblers can't know where to get help, but their families can help understand when there's an issue and make sure that their family members get help. So we are working on it. As Sid said, I think all of the people on the stage would say that they're always interested in learning more and finding new and improved ways to address this issue. And I would simply like to say that I believe that they are all concerned about it and will help the city and the community address it well.
Okay, we'll take our next question.
My name is Jeremy Enke, and I've been a proud Rockford resident for 43 years. I've also been involved in the gaming industry myself for the past 16 years, and I can assure everybody in this room that Hard Rock Casino is the Rolls-Royce of casino brands within the gaming industry. I speak today, however, not on behalf of just myself, but also on behalf of almost 2,000 Rockford residents who came together in the last month and formed the group 815 for Hard Rock. Make no mistake, supporters of the Hard Rock Casino are not against downtown or the River District at all. In fact, many of us are business owners or residents of downtown. We are simply against locating an unknown casino downtown, since you guys haven't even given us who the operators are. We're also against proposed and unfunded projects that could fall on the backs of us taxpayers. So decisions have consequences. In 1958, it was decided by our government that the interstate highway I-90 was not to be routed through the city, but instead near the Winnebago-Boone County line. This poor decision has unfortunately forever changed the face of Rockford. You, as elected officials, are being given the tremendous responsibility to make what is likely the largest economic decision for Rockford, Illinois since 1958. For years now, Rockford has had the stigma in the Midwest of not being a desirable city to visit. As elected officials, we as residents are depending on you to change the course of history for Rockford, Illinois, and everyone who calls 815 their home. And we should all remember, the government's job nationally, in Rockford, everywhere, is to serve the people. There's also a notion that the city of Rockford could send multiple proposals to the Illinois State Gaming Board. Simply put, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable to us as residents, citizens, and voters. I would like to remind everyone that last year, our city officials, led by the mayor, hosted several town hall meetings and aggressively lobbied to have home rule referendum passed that would give more power to our elected officials to make local decisions and ultimately give less power to Springfield. Now is your chance to prove as city leaders that you can represent the citizens of Rockford and make the big and transformative decisions for our city versus depending on Springfield to make that choice for you. It is our duty as citizens to hold each and every one of our lawmakers responsible to make that right decision. And unless you've been living under a bubble or blinded by the politics, it should be quite clear that the majority of Rockford residents we want the one and only decision that makes the most economic sense for Rockford, and that is the iconic brand of Hard Rock located on the shovel-ready property of Clock Tower Building directly off of 90 that could have our temporary casino open within 90 days. We as citizens are depending on our city leaders to make the right decision, and we trust that you will. The people of Rockford have spoken. Hard Rock Casino on 990 is a clear and easy choice. We as a group urge you all to set politics aside and make what you know is the right decision for the economic future of this great city of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next, please.
Oh. Well, how do I top that? Good evening. I am Diana Rose Walker. As a matter of introduction, I am a Rockford resident who not only loves her community, but also works proactively to improve it. For full disclosure, I'm not a proponent of legalized gambling, alcohol, marijuana, or tobacco. However, the legislation designating Rockford as a casino site affords my community a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to create a revenue stream and potentially ease the tax burden of our citizens. Today, we were presented with 3 options in 3 different locations. Specifically, 2 proposals, albeit noteworthy, are located in areas which experience rapid growth to the east section of our community. There is a direct and verifiable correlation between the continuing rapid growth in one segment and decline of another segment within our city. Let us not forget the far-sighted decisions of past governing bodies which created this lopsided growth in our city by dismissing opportunities for an academic institution, a manufacturing plant, a NASCAR speedway, and the interstate highway. Our historic and legendary past mistakes must be considered when determining our future. We can undo decades of misdirection and lack of vision by selecting a site which is inclusive, collaborative, and most importantly, utilizes our greatest resource, underutilized resource, the river. A casino based on the river is ideal to its proximity to many of our community assets, namely one of the country's top 10 children's museums, the Discovery Center, our venerable sports facility, the Sports Factory, Davis Park, Amtrak Metro Rail Station, Tinker Swiss Cottage, Clem Arboretum, the Ethnic Heritage Museum, and the proposed Aquatic Museum. The choice is clear. Are you willing, City Council, to take a leap of faith as visionary leaders or cower in fear and maintain the status quo? The time is now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Can we have the next question, please?
Good evening. My name is Violet Johniker. I'm the pastor of Brook Road United Methodist Church in the southeast part of Rockford here. Last week in my hometown of Waukegan, people gathered in our downtown theater there to have this same conversation. Waukegan is thinking about getting a casino. They heard the same pitches from companies that would profit, and they heard fewer questions because that closed early, so I'm so grateful to everybody who stuck around tonight to listen to public comment and ask questions. Our mayor has regularly encouraged faith leaders to make clear what we think are the right moral choices for our community, and I'm here just tonight to tell you that I think it is immoral to open a casino, to put any public funds toward it, or to support it at all. I am for economic development just as much as everyone is here, but I think we ought to wait and do it the right way. Casinos are a short-term promise and short-term job creation and will screw over the long-term development prospects of this city. Future mayors and future pastors will have a lot to do to clean up the work that might happen here now. So I am asking the city to hold a second public forum where we might have opportunity to have extended comments and presentations from other organizations about the damages caused by casinos and gambling. We know that for every $1 the city will receive in casino revenue, more than $3 will have to be spent on social services, increased incarceration costs, law enforcement costs, and other costs associated with gambling and casino expansion. We also know, as has been stated by many folks tonight, that gambling can become a serious addiction for folks. And for those for whom it is an addiction, problem gamblers are much more likely to attempt suicide, with 1 in 5 addicted gamblers attempting suicide. Tonight, I just want us to slow down. People have said that a casino is inevitable, that this is going to happen, but that is not true. There is not a casino in Rockford today, and there does not need to be. I would encourage the city to offer another public forum where we might be able to discuss these issues more seriously and not simply listen to presentations by folks who will profit and extract money from this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
My name's Michael O'Toole. I'm a Rockford city resident with a bachelor's degree, business administration from Western Illinois University. I personally am not into gambling, but I know others are. So I'm not advocating whether we should or should not, for the city of Rockford, have a casino located in any location in the city. I have two questions. The first one is for a representative from the city of Rockford. Is the idea of a casino and the revenue primarily to come from outsiders of the city spending their money, whether it's on the entertainment side of a casino or on the gaming tables and slot machines? And then my second question is for the second proposal for the downtown casino. If my understanding is correct from your presentation, it sounds like you feel that most pedestrians and City of Rockford residents are going to sustain a casino developed in downtown Rockford. Can you explain, if that's what you really believe, how you could make that happen?
Sure. Let me address the first question, and then Ron can address the second on behalf of his company. Regional casinos don't do a huge tourism business, i.e. from the immediate area. Regional casinos attract people from within a driving distance of the casino. Some people say that driving distance is an hour. Some people say it's 90 minutes. Some people do it in concentric circles, saying that most of your customers are going to come from within a 50-mile region because that's the way you can get them to drive there. As you saw from one of the presentations, the assumption is that the local market will be anywhere from 80 to 85%, and the balance will be from outside. That outside might be Chicago, that outside might be somebody coming in to see, you know, a particular entertainment act that is at the casino or in the town or whatever. So I think thinking about this as a tourist business in a regional market is not accurate. That doesn't work. People would love to have that. You'd love to have, you know, non-Rockford residents dropping additional money in, but that's typically not what happens. Right now, what you've got in the state of Illinois is a lot of casinos. These 6 that are going to open now, or if they all open, you know, we'll put more casinos into the economy. There's a certain segment of your population that is currently going to other casinos around the state to gamble, and some probably up to Wisconsin. So I think part of what the state thought about when it passed this expansion was that each community that wanted one was trying to recapture some of the dollars that were leaving the community to go to other casinos outside the immediate area. So whether you're going up to Milwaukee or you're going over to Aurora or something of that sort, it was an opportunity that was given to each of the local markets, Rockford or Waukegan, et cetera, to recapture some of their business. But tourism, I don't think so. Brian, you want to?
You know, on the question of, you know, we are not relying on pedestrian traffic to make this casino work. The vast majority of the visitors will come by car. What we were saying was that we're going to create and design this casino with multiple exits, and we're going to institute programs to bring in the local community, local business community. We're going to encourage our guests to get out and walk the city and spend their dollars beyond our facility. And I think that's what we're referring to. They will drive to get to our facility, but we want them to get there and get out and enjoy downtown Rockford.
Anybody have anything to add up here? Okay. 1 second. That's me. I represent the city of Rockford. Only the city. Okay. Next question or comment, please.
Hello, my name's Rob Bellis. My wife and I, Lynn, have some rather deep roots here in Rockford. I'm a transplant, but have been here now half my life. My wife's family, her grandfather was mayor. We have owned businesses since '92 in Rockford. I have commercial downtown property. I have my house that I live in the city. My kids are both products of 205. My oldest daughter has returned to Rockford, owns a house here, lives with her husband, works for the Park District. I see this as a fantastic opportunity to get inside the pockets of other people rather than my pocket. And personally, I see one proposal that has the biggest chance to do that, and that's the Hard Rock. I had a customer that's at Oktoberfest in Munich send me pictures all week long of brats and sauerkraut, and yesterday he sends me a picture of Hard Rock Cafe in Munich. It's everywhere. That said, I want to know if any of these three entity proposals are getting into my pocket. Is anybody looking for subsidies, river edge money, TIF money, rebates of building permits, historic preservation tax credits, or anything that is not 110% privately funded?
No, is the answer. None of the three proposers are requesting any special tax breaks, any TIF districts, the enterprise district. We've told anybody who's in an enterprise district that other than maybe the federal income tax benefit that they might be able to get from historic tax credits, we're not giving them anything else, and they willingly agreed to that. I think that the days of casinos being subsidized were short-lived. They were many years ago. That doesn't happen anymore, so none of them are getting anything from the city. In fact, the question that the city has, and we're still negotiating it, is what are you going to give us to, as the pastor said, offset some of the negatives, number one, and number two, what are we going to get as the statute requires in terms of revenue sharing? And I'm pleased to tell you that without getting into specifics, because it would hurt the city's negotiating position, that all three of these developers have been forthcoming in terms of saying, yes, we're moving towards revenue sharing in the right direction. I would say that compliance with the statute, namely that there's a good faith effort to end up with a revenue sharing agreement and an agreement that defrays the costs, the negative costs of whether it's police or any of the other potential costs are also being dealt with in the host community agreement, and all three have come to the table on it. So short answer is no. The longer answer is we think we're real close to where we should be in terms of revenue sharing and offsetting negative costs. Next.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Smith. I'm a lifelong resident of Rockford, Illinois. I also honored to serve as commissioner of the world-class Rockford Park District. My question is specifically to the Forest City partners. I have two questions. One, admittedly, you came in, and I believe it, in your own words, at the last minute. And even if you'd started at day one, that's 87 days. And part of your proposal is to create a family entertainment center. I question, in those 87 days, have you been able to study the feasibility of what you can do? You mentioned golf, simulators, and a water park. I'm concerned about the parasitic effects of building another family entertainment center when we have those existing in Rockford. My second question is, you never stated a timeline for your temporary casino. I'm assuming you said you're going to build a building on the site, so I'm assuming you're going to start from scratch, and then I guess the other two proposals both stated a specific time to the community here tonight of when you'd be starting those. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So we have submitted timeline schedules and more detail on our construction schedule. There's only so much time in this 45-minute presentation to get so much information out. But we are, in the case of the temporary casino, we'll address that one first. We are allowing space on our current site to do what's called a sprung structure, a temporary structure. We could build that on site, and that would be, I believe the contractor said, within 9 months. Now, the upside to the sprung structure and doing a temporary on-site facility is that after the completion of the permanent casino, that becomes 60,000-foot event space or subdivided event space. It's useful space that can be repurposed and utilized. It's not closed and abandoned. But we also see the immediacy being attractive as the city starts to see revenue sharing coming from that on a very quicker basis. So we have had our real estate folks out looking for available empty properties, something we can look at locating the temporary casino on more immediately. And we will continue to pursue those two. First question was on the studies. We are just getting into those components. I can tell you that the individual, let me back up, remember this concept of a master development. So we're not, as Forest City partners, developing each and every one of these components. We're relying on the folks that are coming in and saying, I want to be part of your project, I want to be part of your program. They've done their market studies, they know they want to be here, they know that this is a dot on their map and the demographics work and the traffic is there, and they want to take part in the synergistic project. So it starts with the casino as an anchor. The water park wants to be next to that because it's more successful. They're committed to one in this area, so they like this site, they want to move forward. The golf complex looks at that and says, yep, with those two here, there's going to be a huge draw. I want to continue to build on that. And that's how those come together. So some of those market studies rely on the actual end users that are going to come in here and build those and operate those facilities. But we are, at the same time, paralleling some market study work with those uses and other uses to try to identify users for the remaining acreage that hasn't been dedicated yet.
Okay. Next question, please.
I'm Brandy Gardner, known as Sister Brandy in the Hood. I'm a downtown 3-year strong business owner of Brandy's Candies and community activist.
Okay.
And I realized the location of the Hard Rock downtown, where it is right now, is in the same location that hired people in the community, anyone that I sent. The restaurant name was Capitol House. Anyone that I sent there, they would hire on the spot. I think what I saw on the screen there, I tried to take a picture of it, was they're going to donate to Remedies, which is a good organization. However, I'm a community activist, and so that's the reason why I don't sell cigarettes. So I seen a contradict there, and I mean, it would be like me selling cigarettes and passing out help to quit smoking. Since the casino is going to be, what will be available to help the employees not fall into the gambling influence because of their environment? I just met Victory Bell. You stated you believe this will be an opportunity for growth in the community, for people in the community and downtown businesses. Where and when do they sign up? Where are the job applications? How will people that are economically in poverty have immediate possible, where and when do they sign up, and how will you make the qualifications immediately possible to the people that are economically impoverished?
Sure. Number one, the host community agreement has a very specific set of requests of the developer. Basically, all the developers have agreed to those requests. There will be a very fulsome and robust attempt to, one, educate the population, both east and west side potential employees. Number two, there's going to be training programs. 3, people are going to give them plenty of advance warning that the job fair is going to be at such and such a location on such and such a day. The list goes on for 1.5 pages of the things that we were able to determine should be done by the city, by the developers, in each case to attract as much employment as is possible. We have a whole section that deals with minority employment. We have a section that deals with person with disabilities employment. We have a whole section that deals with gender advancement employment. And we have a section that deals with veteran employment. And in each case, what we've provided for is not only trying to get those people to become employed, especially if they were unemployed previously, but over a period of time to take the lower entry positions that they might first take because they're not skilled at a particular task, and train them to step up to the next task. It's a smart investment for the casino companies because rather than just keeping somebody there all the time and then replacing them, as they quit and the like, if you can make these people stay long-term with the company, it's a better, smarter thing to do. So we've got a whole, it's probably 20, 30 pages of the document deals with minorities, hiring, both during construction and permanent, operational. It deals with buying from vendors that are in the community, first and foremost. So other than the slot machines, which nobody builds around here, they all come from national contracts, everything after that is potentially to be sought from local vendors. If they can't get it from a local vendor, then we want them to try to get it from Winnebago. If they can't get it from Winnebago County, then we want them to get it from Illinois. If they can't get it there, they've got to explain to the city why they couldn't accomplish that goal. One. Two, they've got to show that they're trying every step of the way. So there's a reporting mechanism first that goes to the city, and then there's an enforcement mechanism where if a developer wasn't trying their best and couldn't prove they were trying their best, they can be fined. So we're negotiating all of that. It's a very fulsome requirement. In addition, the state wants to see that too. They want to see as low possible unemployment. Here comes 1,000 new jobs, 800 in the case of Ron's company, I think. You want that to go to as many people as possible that are unemployed and get them on the payroll. So thank you for your question. Sure. Ron wants to add something to that.
So I appreciate your question a lot. Past life experience, I've worked closely with minority communities. One thing I really think is important for us to get this right when we talk about the location of the casino having access to jobs who, is close in proximity to those folks who need jobs. We really looked at the structure of the Springfield, Massachusetts casino because their community is a lot like ours. It's almost a tale of two cities. And so the size of community is very similar, income is very similar, minority makeup is very similar. Admittedly, bless you, they did have a very large and probably overextended feasibility study and economic impact plan. However, what they did do, I think, incredibly right is work with the state of Massachusetts to look at the impact on minorities and gambling. And so we did include in our presentation to the city, and I think it's something that we as a community need to look at, is what are the effects, particularly on African American community members, our city members who are people of color, because of a casino. And so the state of Massachusetts studied that deeply because in Springfield, they wound up with 54% of their working staff from the community of Springfield that were people of color. And so being able to bring the community into those careers and into those jobs, there were special circumstances that certain groups of folks that come from neighborhoods surrounding a blighted area of the community need to be addressed. And so we did include that, and I think it's not just for us, it's for us as a community to use as a guide.
Thank you. And one of the things that you'll see addressed in the host community agreements is transportation. With the city as split as it is east and west, we wanted to make sure that all three developers, especially the two that were out on I-90, were able to fulfill their obligations to the city, to the state, to this community in terms of the employment of the right kind of people. To make that happen in each case, and it doesn't happen, doesn't have the same impact on Ron's site, but in the other two sites, they've readily committed to employee shuttles, assisting the mass transit system and trying to get more buses, on a better schedule, et cetera. So it's something that we're paying a lot of attention to because we know that, if there were one of the sites that was chosen was one of the I-90 sites, you got to get people out there. So we're paying attention to that, and those two developers have said, of course, we want our employees to be able to get here. So we're trying to balance everything. So I just felt it was fair to indicate that on behalf of the other two. Next question, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Prophet Yusuf. I'm a community activist, a 20-year veteran of the United States Navy. I did 19 years, 11 months, 29 days, 1 hour, 10 minutes, 15 seconds. I did 3 tours in Vietnam. I'm a dedicated, proud river rat, River Division 53, a retired teacher and truck driver. In the book of Psalms, the 121st chapter, the 1st to the 2nd verse, it says, I look to the hills, which comes my help. My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. I have 5 questions for the man in the Forest City. Number 1, are you going to have African Americans, construction workers, help build your casino? Number two, are you going to have African Americans have jobs in the casino? Number three, are you going to have the casino in a location where everybody in Rockford can go to it? You just can't depend on big spenders. Number four, have you thought about transportation? Most people in Rockford are poor. They don't have a car. And my fifth question is to the city. What are you going to do with this extra revenue that you get from the casino? And I also want to thank that gentleman who was in Vietnam, because if you can survive Vietnam, you can survive any place. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Give it a whirl. Excellent questions, lots of energy. So I want to back up one step and add something to the last question, because it kind of sets the table to answer your question, sir. You've heard a lot of discussion about this host city contribution or the host city agreement, and I don't know what the other two groups have negotiated, other than I think we're probably very similarly in the ballpark, same ballpark together. This is a program that your community put together. Sid and Kim and other folks at the city have put a very thoughtful program, very comprehensive program together, and asked us all to participate in that program. I think we all are admitting and agreeing to participate that willingly. It's part of our obligations. It's addressing those and mitigating those concerns that are out there. But we're also going above and beyond the components of the host city contribution. Today we met as a team in preparation for this presentation, and Victory and his wife were probably half to three-quarters of the discussion, because it was a piece that was so important to us that we put together. Not just because we want to put a plug up on the wall and say this is what we've done, but as you've seen in the numbers tonight, we have between 1,000 and 2,000 jobs to fill. There's no way we can do that without the help of all of these components, all of the minority interests, all the veteran interests, all of those folks that are in the community that need to come in. We've committed to that program that will identify those opportunities, those folks in underserved areas, those folks we can help address transit for, bring into the site. We've also addressed that in the form of training, hiring, and promoting those folks as well. So I think we've put a very thoughtful and thorough program together. We've had input locally from folks that know Rockford extremely well. It's something that we'll implement into our everyday operations as part of the casino, and I think it was very thoughtfully put together. So I think I've answered your questions. If there's anything I missed, can you let me know? Thanks.
I think is to the fifth question. You want to give it a shot, Bobby?
I'll give it a shot. I think the mayor's still out there. He can, and all the aldermen are out there too. So it has not been decided what the city will do with the revenue that is received from this development. That will be something that city staff and the council will be looking very seriously at over the time period before those revenues start to come in. So there are no decisions, there are no set avenues for those dollars at this point, at least as far as I understand it. It is something for the council and staff to be considering into the future after getting a lot of input, I'm sure, from the community.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Greer Robinson. I'm an educator and also the president of the NAACP. I just have a few questions, and first I'm going to give a couple of comments. I do like the fact that Hard Rock added education. They are establishing something for our students so they can learn. That's a plus to me. But listening to some of the others, I just saw a lot of fun stuff for children, but we also need to consider educating our children too, and making sure that maybe some of that money can go towards assessment, helping increase our scores or improve them. I know due to the studies they're trying to get rid of some of the assessments. But my questions are to everyone in reference to hiring. I just hope that you're not giving them fool's gold. You're telling them that you're going to hire them, but you're taking them through a temporary service. I hope that is not something that is going to be used with the casino. Secondly, as the NAACP president, I also want to make sure that you're being honest with the hiring, that you don't add a whole bunch of things like you have been incarcerated, so we can't hire you, et cetera, et cetera. And I know there's some rules that you have to follow, but I hope that you really take in consideration the need of jobs actually with people of color. That's it.
You know, as I said, the host community agreement has very significant provisions in it, very specific provisions in it to have the developer hire persons of color, women, persons with disabilities, and veterans. They're not going to be empty promises that aren't followed up on, that aren't reported on, and that aren't enforced. So it's very serious. And I don't think any one of the developers up here is basically looking at it and saying, I can get away with anything. I mean, I think they understand the obligation. The statute makes it very clear that's a goal that the state has. The city has made it very clear to all three of them that it's a big-time important issue for the city, and they've reacted well. Different slightly here and there, but on the whole, well. And the ones that we've disagreed on, it's just been methodology. Is this the best method of getting the most persons of color to come to the facility, or is this the best method? So I think there's been a good faith effort on their part. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, panel. How does decision come to fruition? Please give a numeral in the form of a percentage rate or mark to indicate the possibility that no casino will be built or brought to our good city of Rockford. Certainly, casinos are insidious, vicious, and I can't say that word, way to do business. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you for your comment. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Rudy Valdez, and I'm in the leadership. I'm a leadership member for the NAACP, for the Coalition of Latino Leaders, for RAVE, and for SWIFT. SWIFT's business district in Southwest Rockford. We're just south of the downtown area. First of all, I want to say thank you for coming and explaining. All three proposals were really well done, were really good. They were very informative. I was asked to give my opinion early on about where, especially being part of the SWIFT organization, early on where I thought the casino should be. And I had said, my opinion was, it doesn't matter the location, as long as it's the best value, the best outcome for the city of Rockford and the region. However, if all things are equal, which at the time we didn't know any of the details, all things being equal, I'd rather have it in South Main, because that's where we help a lot of the businesses in the underserved area. Since then is today. I scribbled a whole bunch of notes, frantically taking pictures to try to assess the different proposals quickly, and they were all very good. They all had a lot of common things between them, which is great. So what I'm about to say, a couple of things, is not necessarily detrimental to any, they're all good. It's just that one was better than the other two, in my opinion. And the two questions that I had, I think have already been answered. One of them was for Forest City Casino. In one of the slides that you had up there, it pointed out about Lux Golf. So I think Tyler had asked that question, if it's going to be a parasitic type, is it going to compete with the Park District? Because the Park District is right now struggling, and they're possibly going to be closing a golf course. And so, but I think you answered that. If you want to make a comment afterwards that, to add to it, that'd be great. And then as far as the downtown one is, what I really liked about downtown originally was it's downtown and people could go to work because it's very difficult to take RMTD, the Rockford Mass Transit District. It sometimes takes 2 hours to get to work the way it's set up because some of the bus routes only go once every hour. So if you miss it, you don't want to be fired. So therefore you go an hour earlier and people spend 4 hours of their day just commuting. So it was good to know that part of the agreement was to make sure that there was transportation. Time? Okay, sorry. Anyway.
Unless you got a really quick follow-up.
Real quick follow-up. Whatever you decide, okay, I think Hard Rock Cafes, the Hard Rock one is great, but whatever you decide, please, when you pick one. So just like, don't let Springfield make the decision for us. Let us make the decision. So just pick one, whichever one that may be. Thank you.
I don't know whether I'm fortunate or unfortunate to get most of the questions tonight, but we'll do our best. Part of our mission and vision and value statement we made at the beginning of our presentation considered what detrimental effects we may have and what we could do to bring more energy to that area. And I understand Park District has backed another project in this race. We weren't in it as early as they were. I don't think anybody was in it as early as they were, so applaud their efforts. But number one, a big part of that entertainment complex concept that came together on our site was envisioned to support the Sports Core facility. The facility could attract and retain tournaments, bring people from out of town, create more of that regional basis if they had support of lodging, entertainment, and these other concepts. So we'd like to think that we strongly support the Park District and in their facility there. I don't know that these new golf facilities, and I don't know how many of you seen Top Golf or Lux Golf or any of those. I don't know if there's enough empirical data to determine whether there's detrimental effect on golf courses other than to say that when I've been to them, it's not your typical golfing crowd. And it's an entirely different experience. It's a social experience. It's a dining experience. It's more recreational, entertainment driven than it is for the sport of golf. I see a lot of people that are probably trying golf for the first time there, better than on the hole in front of you folks, I'm sure. I really have never heard and don't see that as being any sort of detrimental effect on existing golf facilities. So I think that's my answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, please.
The last gentleman on this side didn't feel like he got his question answered, and it was, what is the chance that there will be no casino?
I'll give you my opinion. The statute is pretty clear. If the 6 requirements that Bobby mentioned earlier are complied with, and you submit on a timely basis to the IGB, whether it's 1 or 3 or 17 or whatever the number is, the statute makes it pretty clear you're going to end up with a casino. So I think that, we have 3 different developers here, 3 different proposals here. All of them have, various parts of what the city wants. I really can't imagine that you don't end up with a casino. I think the moral ship has sailed. The state has determined that casinos are a way they want to raise money to eliminate some of the pension obligations, unfunded pension obligations they have. The state has made the determination that many of the city fathers said we can't keep raising real estate taxes. How are we going to get things, under our, a balanced budget? And they said, here's a method that works. It's contributed $1.3 billion, $1.4 billion a year to date. They think it'll contribute more. So I think the moral issue is finished. I think the question is how many dollars can it generate? And there people differ. But it will generate more money. So I think that the thought process is let's take that money and put it to good use. Let's not spend it on frivolous things. Let's spend it on whatever it is. In the case of the city of Chicago, if ever they get a casino, it's pension funds. In this community, it'll be other things. So I think that that's the intent of the statute. I think that's the intent of the city of Rockford. And, we're trying to make a choice as to which one is the best, which one's going to get the most money, which is going to have the most economic development spillover effect, not just directly at the casino. And I think that it's highly likely you're going to end up with a casino. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Desiree Robinson, and I'm a cancer survivor who attends the Live Strong program at the YMCA. So the Live Strong program, they have it at the Northeast branch, which is off 90. But also I attend the YMCA downtown with Miss Carol Bennett, which is I love her dearly, which is my friend, who after this forum, we would still be doing water aerobics together and we'll still be friends. And what I want to share with you guys, I live on the east side of town. I live off maybe 10 minutes from the clock tower. I'm a transplant from Indianapolis, Indiana. My husband works at the Chrysler plant. So saying this, we've been here approximately 14 years. People don't really come visit us in Rockford because there's not much for people to do in Rockford at this point. Especially, we have older family members who don't come because there's really nothing to do in Rockford. My daughter has left Rockford, has come to visit. She says, Mom, I will never come live in Rockford because there's nothing to do. She's 33 years old. Just so happened, I was reading the articles, what was going on with the casino, and I had read some information, and I just happened to read the information about the Hard Rock Cafe. Well, reading that, I happened to see Ian's name, and I said, well, let me reach out. Let me see if I get a bite, what's going on. I contacted Ian. I said, Ian, the problem I have with the Hard Rock Cafe or the 815 with you guys, he said, well, check out what's going on, and I'll give you these websites. Take a look, see what you think. And I did, and I told Ian, I said, I don't see anyone on this page that looks like me. I don't see any diversity. I don't see, there are black people that live on the east side of town. We do live there. So to say that you're going to employ all these black people that live on the west side, there's actually black people that live on the east side of town also. So I think in saying this, we need to work as a city together. Like I said, Carol and I will be friends tomorrow, and I'll still be living on the east side of town. And I just want to say thank you to Ian for allowing me to talk, and I apologize for my throat. But that's just my feeling.
Thank you. Thank you. Shoot.
Okay. We'll do the second one that we got before the tonight's proceeding. The question was, a proposed site at the old clock tower location is reportedly owned by a group of local investors. Is a complete listing of investors available? I'm answering this one rather than asking the Hard Rock people because each of the proposers has submitted information that they consider to be confidential and proprietary to them because they are still working on some of those details. And the information regarding investors is one piece of information that the proposers have asked us to keep confidential, and we are honoring that. We do expect that at some point that the proposers will make that information available, but at this time we're respectfully declining to do that, so thank you.
And just to add to that, so that people don't think, somebody's going to sneak in, the Illinois State Gaming Board will vet every single investor in the deal very carefully. They'll run it through the FBI systems, they'll run it through the state police, they'll investigate on an individual basis every individual that's there. So not only will we know, well, we know who they are, we're just bound to keep them confidential, but the state will vet every one of those people, and I think that at a point in time that each of the developers will disclose who those are. Next question.
Hello, thank you. And if my question's redundant, please forgive me if the answer was already given. My name is Valerie DeCastris. 5 generations of my family have lived in South Rockford. I guess you'd call me an activist as well as a scientist, which I am by trade. I've been involved in kind of the revitalization of downtown, the South Main District in South Rockford, since about 1995 when I returned here after a lot of years in horror at what had happened to the west and the south sides of our city. And it's been a lot of fun to be involved in a lot of these projects, and we're really coming along, very excited about it. So I'm very excited to have these proposals. Simply put, what provisions have been made, or other provisions been made for shuttle transportation from other cities, or from, you know, like the buses that run to different casinos through Rockford, or from different parts of the city? Because there's been some criticism that people don't want this downtown. I believe the Ministerial Alliance doesn't want it downtown because it'd be, quote, closer to people who are going to gamble. But I'm sure there's probably provisions for shuttles no matter where the casino is located. If you could address that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Yes, we did talk about it earlier. There will be shuttles for employees, that's for sure. I think that it's safe to say that all three of the developers have indicated that they will use some bus services beyond that. And as to customers, you know, there are typically bus programs. Some are more robust than others. So you will see, you know, when the the Elgin Casino was owned by Hyatt MGM, they had a bus program that went around different cities, you know, 50 miles outside, 90 miles outside, that would drive people from those cities at specified times to the casino. I can tell you that two of the proposers have specific references to having a bus program. It's not defined yet. One of them I just don't remember off the top of my head as to whether they do, but that's a relatively commonplace mechanism that's used by regional casinos to gather in more people from the immediate area that don't want to drive. So I hope that answers your question. Could we have the next one, please?
Hi, my name is Larry Defoe Giles. I'm a lifelong resident of the area. I've been a resident of the Near East Side for the last 30 years, so I may lean more towards the downtown site. Rockford's got a history of shooting itself in the foot as far as economic development goes, everything from where they put the interstate to sending Route 66 Raceway out, which was a $10 million a year tourist attraction. But my question is, if you don't pick the Rockford site, or the downtown site, which would spur growth and development down there, will the money from the revenue from the other sites be used to help revitalize downtown also? Because we need development downtown a whole lot more than we need it out by the interstate, because people are going to pay to develop out there anyway.
Sure.
Thank you.
I think, as Bobby mentioned, the city, both the administration and the aldermen, have not decided where the money will go. Part of it is going to be dependent on how much money shows up. Some of the revenue sharing is a percentage of revenue, so until you kind of have an idea of how much there will be, you know, you may be able to make certain commitments, but I think that's a little far off. So, you know, I think the city fathers will do what they think is best. City fathers and mothers will do what they think is best for the city, but no specific provision has been made for utilizing the funds from a casino to offset whatever happening in another portion of town. Too early. Anybody else? I think that's it. Next question, please.
Hi, my name is Paul Gutowski. I have some questions. We have a state senator here who mentioned that casinos are destination sites. So if I understand that correctly, these are questions for anybody up there. If that's true, then it really essentially wouldn't matter which site we're talking about, whether it be the east side or downtown or Rick Nielsen's backyard or wherever, that if casinos are indeed destination sites, they would all work. On the other hand, I have read, and I'd be interested in anybody's comments on the topic of saturation in American casinos these days, which, if I understand it correctly, means that there are some parts of the country that basically have too many casinos that are leading to some casinos closing. Because if that's a valid concern, then that would seem to me that any local casino should be as far away from the Chicago suburban casinos as possible. As far as convenience goes, I guess I have a couple other questions too. Unless we're moving Schaumburg or Lisle or all these other Chicago suburbs, I'm assuming there'll always be other Chicago suburban gaming sites that will be closer to most Chicago suburban residents, except for McHenry County, which, at least according to my Google Maps, would be closer for all three Rockford sites for the folks in McHenry County. So I'm not really sure how the convenience factor comes in. So if anybody has more insight on that, let me know. And even if, I guess I was also kind of wondering too, if convenience is an issue, mostly I guess this would be for the Hard Rock folks, but anybody else can throw in comments. My understanding is that the clock tower site still has some legal issues involved based on past owners and lawsuits and liens and things like that. And it just seems like if we're really worried about Beloit and trying to get things faster going, if we have a piece of property that all of a sudden becomes more valuable, I'm thinking if there are lawsuits involved, that would make people less willing to compromise and come up with settlements rather than move things along a little bit. So if anybody has some insight on that, I'd be interested in that. A couple other questions then. If, mostly for the city, I suppose, if there are guidelines that are violated, if these casino interests say, yes, we'll provide shuttle service, we'll plant flowers, we'll do all these beautiful things, and they get their license, and then they violate them, what's the consequence? Are they going to be scolded, or what? Is there going to be anything else? I'm also interested in how much money each one of the three proposals will take out of the community, and I'm also interested, if you do get the license, is anybody willing to guarantee that they'll stay here? Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Okay, let me try to address a couple of those. Number one, depending on your definition of destination resort, most people think of destination resorts as the Las Vegas type of facilities. In Las Vegas, people go there for the specific purpose of either getting the entertainment that is there or the gaming that is there. Up until recently, it was more gaming. It's turned into a different proposition these days. I think by industry standards, this would not be considered a destination casino, destination resort casino. This is what's referred to in the trade as a regional casino. It's going to have a significant entertainment component. Obviously, you heard one of the developers, theirs is going to be, very substantial. Maybe the others will be as substantial, I don't know. But they're regionals. They're not going to attract people from, Florida or California to them unless they happen to be in town and coming through for some reason. As I indicated before, it's 85-15-ish is kind of the thought process you'd have. And I think as you go farther away, those tourists become less likely to show up. So that was one point that I think you made. I'm embarrassed to tell you, with all the questions you threw at me, I've forgotten most of the other points. Why don't we take a minute and have Hard Rock answer whatever question it was that was raised relative to some litigation.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer it. I'm glad somebody asked the question. So the question was posed, is there a legal problem with the site that might in some way impede development? So let me be very clear. There is not. There is a lawsuit that was filed by Hard Rock against the former owner of the site, and as soon as that was done, the owner retaliated by filing its own lawsuit. But I think it's important that we all keep in mind a couple of things. What's at issue is easily resolved, and we could resolve it at any time, but we're choosing to stand on principle against this former owner who, anyone who's familiar with the site will know this person was an absentee landlord out of state, flouted our building codes, our zoning laws, our health, safety, and welfare codes, and allowed this once grand property to decay into a state that required it to be condemned. The investors came in, they bought that site after it had been condemned, after it had been allowed to deteriorate to that to a state that really couldn't be rehabilitated. And in connection with that, so there was an agreement in place that the seller violated, and we filed a lawsuit arising out of that contract, that breach of contract, and it's still pending. It'll play out in the court systems, but there's absolutely nothing about it that will impede the development in any way. It will be resolved in due course, and we're very confident of that. So there's no reason to be alarmed, or there's no concern that it would impede our ability to develop the site down the road. Thanks.
Okay, I think two of your other questions, and we'll try to deal with them relatively shorter, is what happens if some of the provisions that they've made promises about that are contained in the HCA are violated. The reason we're turning it into an agreement, it's too easy for developers to say things have changed, we're just going to change them willy-nilly. It's not anybody acting in bad faith, just circumstances change. The agreement is a legally enforceable, binding agreement between us and the developer that, frankly, the state will also be very interested in making sure it's enforced. There are mechanisms in all of the provisions for enforcement. If it's a serious enough breach, you could terminate the contract. Does that happen very often? Very seldom. The simple fact that you have the ability to terminate the contract if someone was intending to be a bad actor typically avoids that because there's a lot of money involved. The type of violations you get are things that somebody tried to do something, they didn't do it well enough, something went wrong, you typically look at fixing it first. If it's a cost to the city of some sort, then you get that cost reimbursed, so there's no expense that was outlaid, and you move on. I think most of the casino companies we deal with throughout the country, from one end to the other, they try to adhere to their promises because they don't want to go to the next jurisdiction and have someone from Rockford run over to wherever the next jurisdiction is, Arkansas, and say, these are bad guys. They didn't take care of us properly. They violated their agreements. So if they were not intending to be straight, they're going to be straight because they don't want that reputation. I think the last question was what happens if they come in, they take all the money out, and they disappear? I'm not sure exactly what fact pattern that is, but that doesn't happen. They can't change the casino. They can't make it disappear. They can't sell it to somebody without our consent and the IGB's consent. So I hope that answers that question. Thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Erica Reyes-Smith, Rockford resident. My question while I was waiting kind of got answered, so I'm just going to use this opportunity to state my simple opinion. I'd like to commend Rockford city officials for how much work they've put into Rockford. It's my home. It's especially in the last 5 years since I've lived downtown, to see how much development there's been. It's incredible. And you see a lot more interest in younger people coming downtown. And with that in mind, I think it would be a shame to not have one of the most major developments probably in my lifetime not be focused on continuing that and making Rockford more of an interesting place to go instead of, sort of a box cutter. And also where the jobs are most needed is definitely on the west side, and I find it a little personally offensive, the idea of shuttling the people who need the jobs over to the developed area and then to shuttle them back home to their underdeveloped areas, which are hence full of crime because of that. And that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Elvis Jordan. I'm a community activist here. I've been living in Rockford, Illinois for the past 50 years. I have two questions and a comment. Excuse me. My first question is, I hear you asking about, you're going to hire a lot of people, you're going to put a lot of people to work, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people. I want to know if these jobs come with benefits. That's my first question. The second question is, when will we know actually who's going to get this casino? And how will we know how is it going to be measured by who gets this casino? And my final question is, I'm here tonight to give my support to Hard Rock International, because it's the first group that I hear that's going to do anything for people on the west side and the southwest side. As you know, our park district is $1.5 million in debit. Hard Rock Casino is going to help get the park district out of that debt by doing some things that they cannot afford to do for the people on the west side and southwest side. I'm here because I personally want to see Levens Lake Park be redeveloped into a major attraction for Southwest Rockford. And if Hard Rock Casino gets this casino, we're going to get a major amphitheater out there. We're going to get some more amenities for our youth on the west side. They have made that a promise to the Park District, and that's what I want to see. These other casinos, it's good. They all made good proposals, but the things that you offer, we don't need right now. We don't need golf courses. We don't need water parks. We can have all these things. But what we need is more activities for our young people. We need more things for our young people to do in this community. That's our biggest problem here in this community, because we don't have enough activities for our young people. That's what the problem is. And if you guys can't help us, then you can just keep going on to another town, because that's what we need right now is people that's going to be for Rockford. And the Hard Rock Casino people are people that's from this city, that understand our problems and willing to work with us. Our money will stay in this community. But if we go with these other casinos, our money will go to China and Mexico and everywhere else. But we need help here. Think about that. $1.5 million. If you don't help the Park District, you're going to wind up with a higher property tax to support that $1.5 million deficit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. In answer to your question, most of these are full-paying jobs, full-time jobs with full benefits. I think all three of the developers have so indicated in their responses, so I think that puts that one to rest. I think the second question is, what's the timing? The statute basically said within 120 days of the signature by the governor, you've got to have your application into the Illinois State Gaming Board. That date is October the 25th. October the 25th. You can work backwards from there. The current anticipation is we'd like to be in a position of having the aldermanic hearing on the 30th, answering questions on that day of the aldermen. The proposals will be there. They can answer any questions that the aldermen have for them then, and a recommendation will be made shortly after that, with the City Council potentially voting on the 30th, but what I'm told from a process standpoint is that it's substantially more likely that the vote will take place 7 days later, i.e. October the 7th, if I've done my math right. And at that point in time, the City Council will pass a resolution dealing with the 6 items that we've dealt with at this hearing. Number 1, number 2, 1 or more proposals at that point be submitted, and their applications will be made by the 25th to the Illinois Gaming Board. So that's the time frame. Thereafter, the Gaming Board has got to review each of the proposals, determine that the people in those proposals are suitable, that the proposals comply with the statute, and that process typically has taken 9 months. Maybe we can accelerate it. In a few instances, it's taken longer. The big question is going to be they've got an awful lot to do with a huge bill, and there's a lot coming at them during that 120-day period. How are they going to deal with it? If they have enough staff, it'll be, the normal time frame, 6 to 9 months. If they don't, it might drag a little bit longer, but they're aware of the fact that the governor and the General Assembly want them to get this done quickly, get shovels in the ground quickly, and start making the payments under the tax code that will go to the capital plan that the state basically is looking for $43 billion from over the period of the X number of years. So everybody's pushing to get it done ASAP. Next question, please.
I'm so glad it was mentioned about job opportunities, because we all know an opportunity is an opportunity until a person don't want to give you the opportunity anymore. I heard you guys talk about careers. Will the training you guys provided be able to be used no matter where that person go? I agree. Thank you, everyone, City Council. Thank you, everyone, for coming, the officials, the people up on the stage. I do agree that this meeting was broke down very well, and even more so than the organization that came to the Nordloff Center talking about they were going to give small businesses funding.
Sure. The programs that I think the more modern casino companies have adopted, that the city wants, that I think the state will support, are exactly that, which is, if you start out at an entry level, you hopefully get up to the next level, which in most casinos is viewed as a supervisory level. If you started out in the accounting department at a lowly function, the hope is that you can progress up and that you can take those skills and either stay with the company as a career, as some of the companies have indicated, or take those improved skills and go elsewhere. You know, become an accountant, become a this or that, whatever it is that those skills tried to bring you to. So yeah, I think that they are transferable in many cases. And as you get more training, you know, the more transferable they are.
I'm glad you brought up accounting, because the school system, and you guys talked about education. The school system, I want to know what would be the chances of us getting classes on taxes, stocks and bonds, real estate, accounting, things of that nature, especially since there will be a casino in Rockford, things that will actually make people, as you all know, financially independent. Well, they used to have the economic classes teaching people how to put clothes in the washing machine and stuff. We already know that. I'm talking about, yeah, you're talking about in college? Oh, okay, well, let me finish my question, we'll talk. And then, so I would like to make sure that this is not just an asset for you all, but it's an asset, you know, and it's not a liability to the community. You know what I mean? That it's actually an asset for us too. And I'll leave it at that, but because I've been up here already and I'm tired. This is past the, this is too long. That's why the bell rang in high school, amen? Then we got, okay, thank you.
Thank you. We got somebody else? It's hard to see out here with these lights. I think there's one more. Please.
I just wanted to thank everyone for the time and putting their proposals together this evening. I just had a question about the process itself and whether or not it's possible for us to look at these proposals as a collaborative rather than something that's adversarial. Does the City of Rockford have the option of picking and choosing portions of the proposals? For example, could the operator of one be at another location? I see a lot of excitement in this city and people who are very much engaged in this process. And I see people excited about downtown. I see people who are excited about Hard Rock. Could Hard Rock be downtown? That's one question. And if the real goal here is for maximum economic impact, and I'm sorry to leave Forest City out, maybe we could not, but if the goal here is maximum net positive economic impact, could we leverage the other sites? For example, I know that the Ho Chunk Casino that's going into, I think it's Ho Chunk that's going into Beloit, one of their plans is for a large outlet mall, and that their economic impact study included the City of Rockford. They could place some of their things here. So could we leverage some of the I-90 sites for some of the things that are supposed to go in Beloit and kind of take that thunder and kind of combine everything so that it's a collaboration?
So I think there are things that we took from each of the developers that we thought were neat. They were good for the city, and frankly, we're applying those across the host community agreement and saying we want these things. So we took some of the best. If your question really is, can the city force, just as an example, Hard Rock to go downtown or Ron to go out to the I-90 site that Forest City is at, no, we don't have the ability to do that. That's got to be done voluntarily. If somebody's interested in that, you know, you make that proposal to the two developers, you see if they have any interest in it, you see if they're inclined to do that and the like, but I don't know how the city can do that. All three of these developers have pieces of real estate that they've either optioned up, bought, or control 100% of. So, you know, that's a complication in life. It's pretty hard to say, well, you just spent X number of dollars buying this piece of real estate. We'd like you to throw that away and go over here. They can only do that if it's voluntary. So I would suggest to you that if that's your goal, drop a note to whomever it is you'd like to see move and see if they're at all interested in taking a look at that as an opportunity. We as a city can't do that. We have no mechanism for that.
I know that the city can't compel them or force them to do it, but can they facilitate it? The city, I'm not asking for the city to compel or force anyone to do anything. I'm asking if it's possible for them to facilitate it.
You know, I think if two developers came together and said, hey, we want to do X, Y, and Z, and that is going to be good for the city, sure, the city would go along with it and take a look at, is it really good for the city? but it's got to be started at their level, not at the city's level. It would be a coercive tactic to some extent, because it would be an implication to one of these three that, no, you're in trouble, you better hook up with somebody else. So we're not in that business, and we're not in the business of taking people's money away from them, saying, give up the real estate money you've spent to go over here. That's got to be done voluntarily. No problem doing it voluntarily, and we've seen it in a few instances around the country, but it's done at the developer's own volition rather than the city suggesting it, which has a coercive effect the minute you suggest it. So hope that answers your question. Thank you.
That's all we have.
Okay. This was very good. We appreciate your staying here, especially on a night where there's a Bears game, if anybody cares about the Bears anymore. Thank you. Be safe going home. We appreciate it. Sure. Why don't you come up and we'll add.
No, so it's a bonus question. So the hotel casino complex is a 150-room hotel, likely unbranded, a boutique hotel that would be connected to the casino operations. The hotel that would be connected to the water park is a Wyndham Hotel, and that is 250 rooms. So it'd be
let me make a suggestion. You know, we're past the time, number one, number two. I think these gentlemen would be more than glad to spend a couple of minutes with you walking through a 160 versus a 250-room hotel and give you a little bit of the industry thinking on that. I'm not sure anybody else is focused on the question. Most of them have left, so rather than holding everybody up, let them talk to you off to the side. Thank you again, everyone.